the best out of mineral resources. This is expected to also translate into the overall well-being of the economy. Now, tasked with monitoring of gold production, regulating trade and improving revenue collection, the question remains as to whether or not the Gold Board will deliver really what is promised. Yes, already the Finance Minister, Dr. Kaysol Atuforsin, has contributed or has said that the current stability of the city is because of the Gold Board. These are some of the things we'll be talking about. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Agenda. My name is Beatrice, and tonight we'll be delving into this very conversation of the Gold Board and whether indeed this is the game changer. I do have on the panel with me Mr. Seth Cly. He is a mining consultant. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on Agenda.
Good evening,
tonight.
And the name is?
Seth Cly.
Your name.
My name is Beatrice. Thank you so
Beatrice,
much for joining us.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. We also do have our video call with us, lawyer and former member of parliament for Tamale Central and also former minister for lands and natural resources, Inus Hussaini. He joins us via video call. Good evening to you as well, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on Agenda tonight.
Thank you for having me, Beatrice.
We have as well Samuel Bekwin. He's Executive Director, Center for Extractives and Development. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you as well for joining us on Agenda.
Thank you, and good evening to all your viewers.
And we'll shortly as well be joined by Dr. Yao Graham. He's coordinator, Third World Network Africa. And I want to start with you very quickly, Mr. Inus Hussaini, about really the relevance of this in the midst of all the other institutions that we've had. But first off, I want to take you through really what this Gold Board is expected to do and whether or not is the game changer Ghana needs now moving forward. Now, the Ghana Gold Board was established by an Act of Parliament, like I just said, Act 1140. Indeed, it was assented to by the President just last month. The Gold Board also is established to monitor, oversee, and undertake the buying, selling, and export of gold and other precious minerals, promote value addition to gold and other precious minerals of the country, to support responsible mining and accumulation of gold reserves by the Bank of Ghana, and generate foreign exchange and provide for related matters. Again, the Ghana Gold Board, as we see in the act that established it just last month, is also the sole authority with exclusive rights to buy, sell, weigh, grade, assay, value, and export gold and other precious minerals in Ghana from the licensed artisanal and small-scale gold mining sector. Let me bring you some more here, because effective May 1, 2025, that's this month, the beginning of this month, it is a punishable offense to purchase or deal in gold without a license issued by the Ghana Gold Board. Now, all foreigners are expected to have exited the gold trading market by April 30. That's just last month, 2025. And foreigners may, however, apply to the Gold Board to buy off gold directly. Again, the Gold Board, backed by a seed capital of $279 million advanced to the board by the government of Ghana. Now, remember that we're also streaming live on 3FM 92.7. Send us your comments and we'll read them back to you. So I'm coming first to you, like I just said, Mr. Inus Hussaini. We have had the Minerals Commission, a regulatory body. We have had the PMMC assaying, buying, etc. prior to the Gold Board. I mean, what, in your opinion, do you think the government considered in setting up this Gold Board?
Thank you, Beatrice, for having me, and good evening to my co-panelists. Now, the first thing to say is that the Gold Board has taken over the functions of the PMMC. PMMC itself was established because in 1989 we legalized small-scale mining. So you needed an institutional mechanism, a platform, where gold won in Ghana could be sold to. I mean, if not, I mean, there was no institutional platform for the buying or trading in gold. Now, the GoldBoard is now a strategic institution redirecting how we treat our gold and its contribution to national development. Now, it appears to me that GoldBoard is now playing a critical role in the way gold is used, or gold can be used to support our domestic currency, our national currency, to gain that value as a store of wealth, because now, hitherto, before the establishment of the GoldBoard, many other buyers had access to Ghana gold, and this resulted in what I will describe as theft of our gold, because in 2022 or 23, about $1.7 billion of gold was exported out of this country, would have been accounted for in our books. Now, so what GoldBoard is doing presently is reconstituting itself into a single monopolistic institution that has been established to deal exclusively with gold won in Ghana from the small-scale and artisanal mining operations, and also deal with the established large-scale gold mining companies for the purposes of, if you want, converting, which is allowed by the law, part of our royalties in gold, because we, as a country, the law permits us to take part of the royalties in gold, and so you want to support the efforts of government, one, in stabilizing our currency, two, in building up the reserves, three, in blocking the loopholes which had come about as a result of the proliferation of the licensing regime and the smuggling of gold out of this country, which deprived the country of the benefits that were required.
Mr. Fuseni, and we'll talk about, I'm glad you talk about monopolistic way of dealing with this, your own words, and also the theft of our gold. And I want to give the opportunity to the other panelists to also give us their preliminary comments as well. But just a quick question before I go to the other panelists. You are enumerating the challenges that we had with the previous agencies like the PMMC, the Minerals Commission, as well as others that, you know, were individually doing their own work to ensure we at least managed the mining of gold and everything around it. What would you say to critics who would argue that perhaps you could have strengthened these institutions instead of coming with a new, you know, a new institution, as it were, championed by the president, even ahead of he becoming president?
So what are the new institutions? The new institution is GoldBoard. And like I said, that institution has taken over the functions of the PMMC.
So the question is, you could have strengthened the existing ones instead of forming a new one.
The mandate of GoldBoard itself is expanded. It's expanded. Now there is a new direction on how to treat our gold. And it is the belief of government that this new...
We seem to be losing Mr. Fuseni there, but we
Ghana GoldBoard.
Mr. Fuseni, are you still with us? Let me get to let me come to the studio here before I get to Mr. Samuel Bakun, who is also over a video call with us. Mr. Clay, I'm sure you heard the submission by lawyer Mr. Fuseni there. What's your own understanding of how he is justifying this whole initiative by the government to sanitize our system?
Well, basically, the idea of creating this gold board is a laudable one. And it's a laudable one because the gold market has not been regulated for a long time. Well, these statistics of about 1.7 billion lost in revenue in 2022, this is not the first time. I personally, and before I continue, let me just give full disclosure because I have worked for PMMC for years. I have been a board member of PMMC also for years. And I've literally been in this space for the past 35 years. So I know how the space is regulated in the past.
So indirectly, you're lauding this initiative because you met that institutions you worked with previously were ineffective at dealing with these problems.
Well, I won't say ineffective because the law establishing PMMC was not the same law that we have right now with the GoldBoard. You understand? We had a mandate under the PNDC law, I think 218 or 217, then, because they had legalized gold from small-scale mining. And therefore, they needed an institution to market the production, and hence the formation of PMMC, which hitherto was just called Diamond Marketing Corporation, only to deal with diamonds. So I think this initiative of the GoldBoard is trying to literally, for want of a better word, police the gold trade in such a way that we will avoid all these leakages. Because I'm one proponent of the fact that Ghana can use gold to sort of impact tremendously its GDP. I can give you a few examples of countries that don't mine 1 gram of gold, but they are trading gold on paper and making billions of dollars. I don't see why we cannot. And once we create this vehicle, which is a GoldBoard, and with the right policies and direction, we will be able to impact our GDP greatly, apart from the other, what do we call it, goals that have been set for the board to achieve.
And I want to come to you now, Mr. Samuel Bekwai, Executive Director, Center for Extractives and Development. I'm sure you heard the submissions of both Mr. Yunusaf Hussaini as well as Mr. Clay here in studio, kind of really, as it were, praising the government for this very initiative. Where do you stand on this? Hello, Mr. Bekwai, can you hear us?
I agree with, both of my co-panelists. The reason being, I have also been in the sector for some time, working on governance. Let me put these facts out. 40% on the average of all gold export out of Ghana comes from small-scale sector. In 2024, that 40% was $4.6 billion. That was the value of the gold exported. The small-scale sector contribution is significant, and in the whole world, Ghana has the largest small-scale sector in terms of based on the value of export in the whole world. In most countries that produce gold, they do not allow small-scale gold production officially in most of the advanced countries. Now, another important fact is small scale is the most visible destructive sector when it comes to our environment. The reason being that whilst the sector has been the backbone of most communities, host communities, and potentially increase incomes in some of our regions, particularly the host regions, it is also the key My light just went off, so sorry. It is also the key kind of, I would say, the contributor to a lot of the jobs in these communities as well. At the same time, it destroys a lot of river bodies and water bodies. Now, when it comes to taxes, I led and coordinated the first ASM report for the Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. And I can say on authority that out of 108 companies, small-scale companies we reviewed, only 9 of them paid some form of taxes. So when it comes to direct taxes, small-scale payment is also very low. And it is because of the context. First, it is because their activities are very informal. Even where they have license to operate, they can just, because they do not do what we call mineralization or exploration information, they do trial or luck, try and error style of digging. And when they dig and they get gold, good for them. If they don't, they move faster. That is another issue that we have when it comes to small scale. So you may follow a small scale company to want to collect taxes. By the time you realize he has mined and left the place, you wouldn't be able to. All these we are losing. And then at the point of export, we were also losing. The reason we were losing was that we have always learned that gold provide foreign exchange earnings for Ghana. But unfortunately, there was no formalized system that ensured that small-scale gold that were exported, which was valued at $4.6 billion, that particular dollar would come back in a more formal way to support the economy, especially on our forex. And so over the years, I'll give you an example. My co-panelists in the studio who have worked in the industry for longer, there are examples of Ghanaians who buy gold on behalf of investors outside there. There is an example of one Ghanaian who mentioned that he buys about $300 million of gold from the small scale to his investor out there. The investor sometimes sends somebody to bring him the 300 million in cedis. How the money gets to Ghana to become cedis, nobody knows. And then he buys the gold and take a gold worth $300 million every month to them. They only send his margins to them, to him in Ghana here. There is no policy that ensures that the $300 million should have come in a form of dollars into our commercial banks or even our Bank of Ghana in order to shore up the dollar that we need for import. So the GoldBoard here is a very laudable idea. What does it mean? What GoldBoard means is that over the years, we are losing from the production side of our small scale, destroying the environment with less taxes. One of the key areas we could capture the benefit of the small scale sector is that 4.6 billion should come into our economy as dollars so that it comes to exchange for our cedis. And what does that mean? It means the people who are bringing the money to buy the gold will be demanding our cedis, therefore increasing the potential appreciation of the cedi. And then once they demand our cedi, we will have enough dollars to store so that you and I, who wants to import certain goods into the country, would have access to the dollar.
Was that not what
what the gold?
Was that not what the former Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia tried to do with the gold for oil, where we're using cedis to buy gold locally and then selling it on the international market for dollars, or directly exchanging that for oil?
Beatrice, that is a very good question, and let me explain this. Under the gold for oil, on paper, it was a brilliant idea. However, in practice, it was not implemented as such. You can ask, where are the monies that Bank of Ghana invested? About 2.4 billion, according to Bank of Ghana report, cedis. Where are those monies now as we speak? And we as civil society have to demand accountability where those monies are as we speak. Those monies were targeted at the oil, the importation of oil. The question was, how could we guarantee, or why did we even need a middleman to do that? You could have equally bought the gold with the Bank of Ghana money, gone to sell and bring your dollars right to the Bank of Ghana, so that the oil people could have access. Why did we need to have a middleman who would say, I will take your dollars and import the fuel for you? There was no need for that particular middleman. And I say that there was no need because when it came to implementation, in as much as it may have worked up to a certain point, we didn't see the coordination of how those who were buying the gold on behalf of the PMMC, we didn't know which individuals. They were not licensed officially for us to see whether they were licensed. But this time we have a law that says that whoever buys gold on behalf of PMMC have to be licensed as on behalf of GoldBoard has to be licensed as an aggregator. So there is a bit more control over here. And here we are not linking it to oil. We are saying that the 4.6 billion, if we use last year's export as a yardstick, the 4.6 billion. Now the GoldBoard intend to ensure that if you want to buy gold from Ghana's small scale sector, you would deposit your money. If it was 300 million a month, deposit it with the GoldBoard or Bank of Ghana. The GoldBoard will buy that gold on your behalf and give it to you. So the GoldBoard will buy in cedis and give it to you. That is if you have your own. If the GoldBoard is purchasing, the GoldBoard has been allocated some monies. And the basis for those monies were that we understand that the small scale produces between 3 to 6 tons a week. Out of that, official figures had covered about 3 tons every week. And therefore, if you calculate the 3 tons up to a month, we believe that every week, the GoldBoard could purchase around $200 million or $250 million. And if they can turn around twice in a week, it's very difficult. But in a month, at least they can turn around maybe 3 times. And if they turn around 3 times, that would mean they're able to mop up the gold that have been produced by the small scale and export. So if you want to buy gold, you come through the GoldBoard, you go through what we call a due diligence. And then that due diligence ensures that the source of your funds coming to buy gold from Ghana is coming from a right source and not through organized crime groups, which is another aspect that even though it may not have been intended, but this is one of the unintended consequences. How do we deal with organized crime groups and other groups that have infiltrated our small scale sector?
Mr. Beku, I want to go to the other panelists to share their views as well on what has been said so far. But aren't you concerned about what critics are saying? That, and indeed, we heard Mr. Addis of Husseini say that this is a monopolistic way of ensuring that we are guarding what we have. And that is the word and really the stance that critics have issues with, that it looks like it's an indirect state capture, as it were, of a commodity. For instance, the person who has this view, one of them is Dr. Prince Ama, former MP, really not so satisfied with this sole responsibility, as it were, under the GoldBoard. How do you respond to such an argument?
Thank you, Beatrice. One thing I would say is I see the GoldBoard role as the conduit, similar to Cocoa Board, similar to other GoldBoards that has happening for years. In Guyana, for instance, in Tanzania, they are also doing similar. The GoldBoard role, I don't think it is a very monopolistic role, because what the GoldBoard is doing, first of all, they have two different conduits. First, the first conduit is if you are an aggregator who have gone through a due diligence procedure with the GoldBoard and they have verified all your existing investment, and they've noticed that you've put in the necessary security, including financial security, you'll be able to have access to GoldBoard's money to buy as an agent for the GoldBoard. That is one I understand. The second one I also understand is if you have your own money and your own money you want to buy gold, you can do so from what GoldBoard calls self-financing aggregator. And that first self-financing aggregator means you have your own money, you want to buy your gold and export, but you will be exporting through the GoldBoard, meaning you sell your gold to the GoldBoard. If you do not sell your gold to the GoldBoard, GoldBoard would ensure that the person buying the gold from outside the country comes with the dollar, and that particular dollar is used to is stacked as Bank of Ghana exchange that dollar for you using the Bloomberg rate. So in that case, we are ensuring the foreign exchange earning role of our gold sector. So so I don't see them to be a whole monopoly. However, I would say that we should ensure the governance measures, the procedures to ensure licensing are very transparent so that it does not become a conduit for political expediency. That one, I can say that as a governance person.
Let me get a quick thought of Dr. Yao Graham, coordinator of Third World Network. I realized he's just joined us now. Doc, we've advanced in the conversation, and just in summary, we've heard the panelists talk about why they think that it's time to really coordinate a gold business, as it were, properly. I want to ask you this question, really, about what the finance minister said yesterday, that already we are seeing a positive effect of the gold board on the stability of the city. How do you see that?
Well, I found that it may be true, but I found that a bit puzzling because there have been larger dynamics at play around the economy before the gold board was created. So, he may be talking up its potential, but I think the agreements, the fact that the country has met the requirements of the fund, and
I'm sorry, Doc, your line is going bad. If you could just reposition yourself so we're able to hear you clearly.
Well, I'm saying that the gold board may be making a contribution, but I'm not sure that we can. I don't know how large a role we can attribute to it. I think going forward, we would be in a better position to be able to evaluate that contribution to the exchange rate and so on, because there are other larger processes at play which are affecting the economy. The government's adherence to the IMF targets, certain restoration of confidence and so on. So it may be a contributing factor, but I think that it's too early to be making a large call. I haven't seen the data that is using to talk, but that's my own impression. I think it's early days yet. I don't know how much volume, for example, of foreign exchange has come through the global, because ultimately the stability of your currency is a function of many factors. A key one being confidence in the economy. People not making a run on your currency, and therefore driving the exchange rate down. And I think those variables are also important for understanding what is going on with the city.
Those variables are important in terms of understanding what's going on with the city. Dr. Yao Graham, when we come back, we'll continue with this conversation regarding really how much we can ensure that the gold board contributes to the economy as the government is wishing for, and what needs to be done to ensure that Ghana gets the best out of our gold. This is Agenda on TV3 with me, Beatrice. So to stay with us. And you're still here on Agenda on TV3. My name is Beatrice. We're looking at the Gold Board that was recently established and how this could contribute to the overall well-being of Ghana's economy and to ensure that the country is getting the best out of its natural resources. I do have on the panel with me former Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. He's also former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Inusa Fuseni. He's a lawyer. I also do have as well Mr. Seth Clyde. He's a mining consultant. I have our video call Samuel Bequin, Executive Director, Center for Extractives and Development, as well as Dr. Yao Graham, Coordinator, Third World Network Africa. And I'm coming back to you, Mr. Fuseni, because we last heard Dr. Yao Graham talking about how he wasn't too sure, that it was too early for the government to be attributing the stability of the city to what is, to the Gold Board. And I want to read to you what the former Vice President said just at a program where he went to speak, kind of adding a bit more to what Dr. Yao Graham just told us. And I'm just going to read that to you and get your reaction. And this is exactly what he said. If you ask a simple question to the NDC to point out exactly what policy they have implemented that has resulted in the appreciation of the cedi, they cannot tell you one. They only passed their budget in March. They've not even issued any contract and paid for anything. So you cannot ascribe what is happening to the currency to a policy that they have implemented. Mr. Fuseni, how do you react to this statement coming from the former Vice President?
Well, so when the former Vice President was in office and his government was implementing all the policies that were stabilize the city, why was the city not stabilized? So if we are on autopilot and the city is stabilizing, there should be many questions that should be asked. Vice President must know that, just like Dr. Graham has said, there are a lot of factors at play. One, the confidence that the international community has in this administration, largely because of the prudence that has been exhibited by this present government. Two, this is a new government, and they've shown clearly that they want to do things differently. And so you will see clearly that John Dramani Mahama has shown that he wants to have a lead on the expenditure of the country. Three, the Bank of Ghana has told us that within the 4 months that this government has been in office, they've been able to mop up 72.8 billion Ghana cedis from the system. It simply tells you that the Bank of Ghana is using monetary policy to target or anchor inflation. And so the inflation is no longer driving the exchange rate, conditions of our cedi to the dollar. 3 or 4, the Minister of Finance has told us in his budget that the economic situation of this country is troubling and it will require sacrifice, accountability, transparency, and discipline. Discipline in the way we spend our resources. And you can see that the focus of the Ministry of Finance and Government is to spend in productive sectors of the economy. And a key lead he gives is that about 200,000 acres of land will be secured for the purposes of cocoa plantations. That should tell you that this is how this government intends to build on the productive and growth sectors of the economy. So many things are happening. In fact, if for nothing at all, it is the congruence of the monetary and fiscal policy together with other external developments and the presence of the gold board that is working to ensure that the stability of the city is maintained. Let me come back. Let me come back and deal with what you said about Prince Ama. Every country reserves the right to determine how it wants to deal with its strategic natural resources. Every country. And for us, we want as a country to have absolute control, particularly on gold resources coming from the small scale and artisanal sector.
So you obviously disagree with the former vice president?
Definitely. I mean, we must be doing something different, or conditions are different under the NDC as they were under the MPP, clearly, and that is working to ensure that the city is stabilizing and gaining value against the dollar and other major currencies. It's so because if you look at the West African sub-region, other currencies are not performing, I mean, exactly the way the city is performing. So there must be something that is fundamentally interesting happening in Ghana. And now, just like McQueen said, the gold for oil is not exactly like the gold board, the operations of the gold board. One, the opacity or lack of transparency surrounding the gold for oil deal itself was a problem for many Ghanaians. Two, in fact, the $1.7 billion that was unaccounted for during the time that the gold for oil was in operation. And clearly, what the gold board is intending to do is, when I say monopolistic, I mean people can have access to Ghana's gold, but they must have access to Ghana's gold through one channel and one channel only, through the gold board. So if you want to deal in gold, you must pass necessarily and by law pass through the gold board. We want to be able to track whatever resources and revenue that accrues to Ghana through the gold winning activities, especially from the small scale and artisanal sector. Three, we are also dealing with the moral hazard. McQueen has told you, small scale mining can be very destructive to the environment. We should not allow people to smuggle out our gold, destroy the environment, and we go around looking for resources to remedy or remediate what they have done. We must have control over our resources so that we can also deal with the ravages of small-scale mining, small-scale and
I will come back to you, Mr. Fuseni. I want to get a thought of Mr. Klaye and then the other members of the panel. But let me read a few of your comments back to you. Elista Sika says, we love Ghana. He says again that all the best to President Mahama for resetting Ghana. Also, there's Abdul Latif, MPP, Egu. Okay, there's Tete Zuta, who is saying that MPP is simply scared of the gold board. There is Nana Jiman, who says, thumbs up. The thumbs that voted for President John Mahama are the same thumbs doing Galamsey. If he wants to stop Galamsey, then the gold board is needless because, okay, he mentions other companies that he thinks must be checked. And yes, a few more of your comments coming through, but I'm coming to you, Mr. Klaye. The finance minister, again, said yesterday that we should no more see the chaos in this sector because of the gold board. Per this current framework we do have, including the act that establishes this gold board, are we likely to see this?
Well, basically, like I said in my opening remarks, this whole initiative is quite laudable. Now, I have gone through the legislation that brought Gold Board into being. And I hope that maybe at a point in time, part of this could be amended. Because some of the clauses are quite worrying.
Like which ones?
They have a concept in that law that says that says that you cannot hoard gold. For me, it's that clause is neither here nor there.
But if you look at the subsections of that clause you're referring to, I've seen it. Yeah. It talks about, it gives some caveats to it, that if you're using it for value purposes or, you know, for wealth and stuff, then you're not included. So what's your real problem with that?
Well, so why bring that clause in if you have to caveat it? Because, you know, basically, I don't know anywhere in this country where people just decide to hoard gold. For example, we have the Ashanti stool that is backed by so much gold. We have the Ochini stool that is backed with gold and all that. So I think that clause is redundant. And if it could be amended, because people also can try and put their money into gold and keep it for posterity. So this gold hoarding thing, and the question I ask is, how are you going to determine that somebody is hoarding gold? Are you going to be ransacking people's, you know, homes to find out whether they have gold and to seize it? It's that clause is really worrying. But basically, the issue that the finance minister brought about not having this kind of chaos in the system, yes, it's true. Once there is a kind of control within the sector, those times of, you know, kind of chaotic transactions where people go, our law says that foreigners cannot go into the bush to purchase gold. But it was happening.
At 703?
Yes, but it was happening. Recently, some Indians have been arrested, you know, for buying gold and having a lot of cash in the bush.
If you could be wrapping up for us, so are you also concerned about the implementation of this whole thing, whether or not we are going to be committed to implementing it to the letter?
Well, you see, I always say that Ghana has fantastic laws in this sector, in the gold and precious mineral sector. We have fantastic laws because these laws were actually put together by, you know, looking at the laws for very advanced countries that are in this space. And so the law is there, but the enforcement, the implementation is where we are always found wanting.
And I'm coming to you, Dr. Yaw Graham. Where do you stand on how we can make this a game changer, indeed, moving forward? We've just heard Mr. Clyde there talking about implementation of the law and the need to even amend the current act as we have it. Where do you stand? Dr. Graham, are you still with us?
And usually it's best to operationalize a law for some period before you get into amending. You experience it, unless there's an obviously egregious kind of provision, which is obviously wrong. But more substantively, I think the GoldBoard, its primary value is really to rationalize the domestic gold marketing sector. But Honorable Fuzeni, I think some of the points that you made are a bit exaggerated, because the GoldBoard is not dealing with all the gold that we produce in the country. I mean, there's an unspoken kind of cordon sanitaire put around the large-scale sector because of the contracts that they have. And the law talks about the GoldBoard fulfilling the preemption rights that the government has. And I will be surprised if there's an intention for the GoldBoard. In fact, it's kind of explicit in limiting its relationship with the large-scale sector to that preemption thing. The large-scale sector produces the bulk of the gold that is produced in this country, and they have freedom to sell and take, you know, their money out and so on and so forth. So the full control of the sector is not quite the way that it is being said, because the role of the GoldBoard in relation to the artisan and small-scale mining sector is quite strong compared to the relative freedom that the large-scale investors have to take their things out. I mean, somebody could actually argue that there is a form of discrimination against the domestic the local producers. I'm not against the GoldBoard. I'm just making a point about the privileges that we take for granted with the large-scale sector. And I think in talking about how to optimize the benefits of the mining sector, whilst the GoldBoard is a good initiative for rationalizing the marketing and related issues from the small-scale sector. I mean, I do hope really that some of the irrationalities and illegalities that the small-scale sector have been subjected to, particularly in the context of this anti-galamsey thing from Operation, what was the name of that, the 2017-2018 drive. The setting of the GoldBoard at least gives people a sense of comfort that the sector is now in a kind of predictable space, that their businesses also can have the same security that the large-scale foreign
And if you could be wrapping up for us, Dr. Yao Graham.
I'm done.
Okay, I'm coming to you, Mr. Bequin. If you're able to tell us really how we can make this work. We've already touched on the law or the act establishing this, and really the management or the governance of it. And I'll be glad if you could add your final words to it as well.
Well, now I think the government focus had been on the forex, using the GoldBoard. For me, what I can say is, in order to ensure GoldBoard is sustained, we have to ensure that the activities of GoldBoard in relation to the law should be very transparent. We should establish transparent measures. We should establish point of accountability. And what do we mean? The regulations for the law has to be well consulted with stakeholders to ensure what is practiced in the industry is now in the subsidiary legislation.
Mr. Bequin, sorry for interrupting. You have just about 1 minute, just so we can wrap up.
Yes. Number two, if GoldBoard is using the government money to buy, the same accountability measures should be applied to them. How much of gold do they buy every month, possibly even if it can be weekly? And how much have they exported every week? Those report, if possible, quarterly report like what the oil sector does. Quarterly report for how much gold they've bought and exported, and if possible, even if they want to, if it is in their regulation, through the various aggregators, who are the aggregators that buy on behalf of GoldBoard, who are the off-takers, and whether we can have certain transparency on them as well. I think that would instill more confidence in Ghanaians and ensure that that particular plan by the government to stabilize the city through the GoldBoard is. But one last thing I want to ask is, where the GoldBoard has responsibility to engender responsible mining, I think they should do that as well, because we want to ensure that we don't only provide gold, but we also have access to the London Bullion Market Association markets, which is the market that, call for responsible sourcing, which is your gold shouldn't come from an environmental destructive area, not a conflict area. I will buy because you are doing responsible mining. And that particular market is bigger than even the current market we have access to. And I would then treat the GoldBoard, they have that market as well.
I want to get your final words, Mr. Fuseni, and then I'll get the final word of Mr. Clyde.
Graham, I didn't say that the GoldBoard's activities extend to large-scale mining. I said because of the preemption rights, GoldBoard can decide that our royalties in large-scale mining can be taken in gold, and it's part of their mandate. Now, so no, the GoldBoard is not to deal with large-scale mining. Now, like Bequin has said, there are challenges, and so GoldBoard must have his eyes fixed on the way gold is worn in this country. I mean, he cited the London Bullion, Gold Bullion Association's prescriptions. We can also look at the Kimberley process that deals with diamonds, so that they can be tracked. We can follow up to see where the gold is coming from, what environmental degradation has brought about the production of the gold, and whether the gold is not, like they used to say in Sierra Leone, whether it's not blood gold or blood like we had blood diamonds. So yes, the Gold Board must be interested also in ensuring that when it's buying the gold from people who have mined the gold through environmentally sustainable means or methods.
Indeed, and I'm going to take the final word of Mr. Clyde, but let me just read just a couple more of your messages. Al Hassan Tahiru on YouTube says, Dr. Bawumia told us his gold for oil policy was going to help strengthen the cedi, but nevertheless, the cedi never appreciated, but went up to 17 cedis to $1. Surprisingly, today, Bawumia is claiming credit. Prince Henry Koforidia on Facebook says, good evening. If Dr. Bawumia has nothing positive to add to the good governance of His Excellency John Mahama, he should mute and watch and enjoy good governance. He continues with other messages and says that the Gold Board is a game changer. Mr. Clyde, what are your final thoughts?
I think that the Gold Board has come to try and regulate the space as far as gold trading is concerned. And that is laudable, and we should give it time to roll out and see where we go from there. I was a little disappointed in not seeing a certain clause in the law.
Which was?
That law, that clause I thought should be part of it, because, you know, mining destroys the environment.
Which clause are you talking about?
No, the clause is to charge a certain fee for land reclamation, because the activities of the mining destroys the environment, and therefore there should be, it used to be there in the past, there was a 1% land reclamation fee that was charged on any purchases of gold from the miners, and that is set aside to go back and try and sort of reclaim the land that has been destroyed. So it is not late. Maybe they can think about it, because we need that land reclamation fund to be able to apply it towards the reclamation of the dugout, you know, areas that have been destroyed as a result of mining. Mr.
Seth, you're done with your points?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Seth Clyde, for joining us on Agenda. Seth Clyde is mining consultant. We've also had Inus Hussaini, lawyer, former Lands and Natural Resources Minister, and also former Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. We've had Dr. Yao Graham, coordinator, Third World Network Africa, as well as Mr. Samuel Bekun, Executive Director, Center for Extractives and Development. My name is Beatrice. Thank you so much for joining us on Agenda tonight. Join us again next week. Good evening.